and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Chapter 16. Through the Trapdoor. In years to come, Harry would never quite remember how he had managed to get through the exams when he half expected Voldemort to come bursting through the door at any moment. Yet the days crept by, and there could be no doubt that Fluffy was still alive and well behind the locked door. It was recently hot, especially in the large classroom where they did their written papers. They had been given special new quills for the exams, which had been bewitched with anti-cheating spell. They had practical exams as well. Professor Flitwick called them one by one into his class to see if they could make a pineapple tap dance across a desk. Professor McGonagall watched them turn a mouse into a snuff box. Points were given for how pretty the snuff box was, but taken away if it had whiskers. Snape made them all nervous, breathing down their necks while they tried to remember how to make a forgetfulness potion. Harry did the best he could, trying to ignore the stabbing pains in his forehead which had been bothering him ever since his trip into the forest. Neville, though, Harry had a bad case of exam nerves because Harry couldn't sleep, but the truth was that Harry kept being woken up by his old nightmare, except that it was now worse than ever because there was a hooded figure dripping blood on it. Maybe it was because they hadn't seen that Harry has seen in the forest, or because they didn't have scars burning on their foreheads, but Ron and Hermione didn't seem as worried about the stone as Harry. The idea of Voldemort certainly scared them, but he didn't keep visiting them in dreams, and they were so busy with their revisions, so they didn't have much time to fret about what Snape or anyone else might be up to. Their very last exam was History of Magic. 1 hour of lesson questions about batty old wizards who'd invented self-stricting cauldrons. They'd be free for a whole wonderful week, until the exams results came out. When the ghost of Professor Binns told them to put down their quills and roll up their parchment, Harry couldn't help cheering with the rest. "It was far easier than I thought it would be," said Hermione, as they joined the crowds flocking out into the sunny grounds. "I needn't have learned about the 1637 werewolf code of conduct of the surprising Elfric the Eager." Hermione always liked to go through the exam papers afterwards, but Ron said this made him feel ill, so they wandered around to take and flopped under a tree. The Weasley twins and Lee Jordan were taking the tentacles of a giant squid, which was basking in the warm shallows. "No more revision," Ron sighed happily, stretching out on the grass. "You could look more cheerful, Harry. We've got a week before we find out how badly we have done. There's no need to worry yet." Harry was rubbing his forehead. "I wish I knew what this means," he burst up angrily. "My skull keeps hurting. It's happened before, but never as often as this." "Go to Madame Pomfrey," Hermione suggested. "I'm not ill," said Harry. "I think it's a warning. It means danger's coming." Ron couldn't get worked up. It was too hot. "Harry, relax. Hermione's right. The stone is safe as long as Dumbledore's around. Anyway, we've never had any proof Snape found out how to get past Fluffy. He nearly had his leg ripped off once. He's not going to try it again in a hurry. And Neville will play Quidditch for England before Hagrid lets Dumbledore down." Harry nodded, but he couldn't shake off a learning feeling that there was something he'd forgotten to do, something important. When he tried to explain this, Hermione said, "This is just the exams. I woke up last night and was halfway through my Transfiguration notes before I remembered we'd done that one." Harry was quite sure the unsettled feeling didn't have anything to do with work, though. He watched an owl flutter towards the school around the bridge blue sky, and a note clamped into its mouth. Hagrid was the only one who ever sent him letters. Hagrid would never betray Dumbledore. Hagrid would never tell anyone how to get past Fluffy. Never. But Harry suddenly jumped to his feet. "Where are you going?" said Ron sleepily. "I've just thought of something," said Harry. He had gone white. "We've got to go and see Hagrid now." "Why?" panted Hermione, hurrying to keep up. "Don't you think it's a bit odd?" said Harry, scrambling up the grassy slope. There was Hagrid once more than anything else is a dragon, and a stranger turns up who just happens to have an egg in his pocket? How many people wander around with dragon eggs if it's against the wizard's law? Lucky they found Hagrid, don't you think? Why didn't I see it before? What are you on about? Said Ron, but Harry, sprinting across the grounds towards the forest, didn't answer. Hagrid was sitting in an armchair outside his house. His trousers and sleeves were rolled up, and he was shelling peas into a large bowl. "Hello," he said, smiling. "Finished your exams? Got time for a drink?" "Yeah, please," said Ron, but Harry cut across him. "No, we're in a hurry, Hagrid. I've got to ask you something. You know what night you won Norbert? What did the stranger you were playing cards with look like?" "Dunno," said Hagrid casually. He wouldn't take his cloak off. He saw the three of them look stunned and raised his eyebrows. "It's not that unusual. You get a lot of funny folk in the Hawk's Head. That's one of the pubs down in the village. Might have been a dragon dealer, mightn't he? I never saw his face. He kept his hood up." Harry sank down next to the bowl of peas. "What did you talk to him about, Hagrid? Did you mention Hogwarts at all?" "Might have come up," said Hagrid, frowning as he tried to remember. Yeah, he asked why I did, and I told him I was gamekeeper here. He asked a bit about the sort of creatures they look after. So I told him, and I said that I'd always really wanted a dragon. And then, I can't remember too well, because he kept buying me drinks. Well, let's see. Yeah, then he said he gave the dragon egg, and we could play cards for it if I wanted. But he had to be sure I couldn't handle it. He didn't want it to go to any old home. So I told him after Fluffy, a dragon would be easy. And did he seem interested in Fluffy? Harry asked, trying to keep his voice calm. Well, yeah, how many three-headed dogs do I meet even around Hogwarts? So I told him, Fluffy is a piece of cake. If you know how to calm him down, just play him a bit of music and he'll go straight off to sleep. Harry suddenly looked horrified. I shouldn't know that, he blurted out. Forget I said it. Hey, where are you going? Harry, Ron and Hermione didn't speak to each other at all until they came to a halt in the entrance hall, which seemed very cold and gloomy after the grounds. We've got to go to Dumbledore, said Harry. Hagrid told that stranger how to get past Fluffy, and it was either Snape or Voldemort under the clock. It must have been easy once he'd got Hedrick drunk. I just hope Dumbledore believes us. Ferns might back us up if Bane doesn't stop him. Where's Dumbledore's office? They looked around as if hoping to see a sign pointing them in the right direction. They had never been told where Dumbledore lived, nor did they know anyone who had been sent to see him. We'll just have to, Harry began, but a voice suddenly rang across the hall. What are you three doing inside? It was Professor McGonagall, carrying a large pile of books. We want to see Professor Dumbledore, said Hermione rather bravely. Harry and Ron thought. See Professor Dumbledore? Professor McGonagall repeated, as though this was a very fishy thing to want to. Why? Harry swallowed. Now what? It's sort of secret, he said, but he wished at once he hadn't, because Professor McGonagall's nostrils flared. Professor Dumbledore left 10 minutes ago, she said coldly. He received an urgent owl from the Ministry of Magic and flew off for London at once. He's gone, said Harry passionately. Now, Professor Dumbledore is a very great wizard, Potter. He has many demands on his time. But this is important. Something you have to say is more important than the Ministry of Magic, Potter. Look, said Harry, throwing caution to the winds. Professor, it's about the Sorcerer's Stone. Whatever Professor McGonagall had expected, it wasn't that. The books she was carrying tumbled out her arms, but she didn't pick them up. How do you know? She sputtered. Professor, I think I know that someone is going to try and steal the stone. I've got to talk to Professor Dumbledore. She eyed him with a mixture of shock and suspicion. Professor Dumbledore will be back tomorrow, she said finally. I don't know how you found out about the stone, but rest assured no one can possibly steal it. It's too well protected. But Professor Potter, I know what I'm talking about, she said shortly. She bent down and gathered up the fallen books. I suggest you all go back outside and enjoy the sunshine. But they didn't. It's tonight, said Harry once he was sure Professor McGonagall was out of earshot. Snape's going through the trapdoor tonight. He found out everything he needs, and now he's got Dumbledore out of the way. He sent the note. I bet the Minister of Magic will get a real shock when Dumbledore turns up.